Friends, namaste. So let me start with the second talk. So we had a good introduction to Indian knowledge system by Professor Mahadevan, focusing on specific aspects. I would also be talking on the same thing, but the focus could be slightly different. So let me just give you an outline of the talk. I will talk about what we mean by IKS. So he gave a certain overview of how this can be divided into two categories. One is literary and the other is non-literary per se. In fact, most of the things start with non-literary and then it becomes literary. We just need to understand, so a certain thought process occurs in the human mind and that thought process is sometimes put into practice in some form and later, so it gets written in some other form and then this written thing is further analyzed into various categories and we build theory on them. So this is true of all branches of knowledge. So it's initially the thought process gets a particular form in a particular language and then the literature that has been created is further analyzed and then it keeps on building. You have huge amounts of literature that is being built on that. So let us keep this in mind and I will also take you through how old it has been and how different branches of knowledge have been studied here. And we will also discuss why study them and then this being the land of great intellects. So I was also fascinated to look at some of the statements of Swami Vivekananda, who is a very, very powerful communicator, extremely powerful. And then we will give some examples. So since it is to do with science and technology, I will talk about certain scientific aspects of that. And then where does the science advance today? Is the direction appropriate and so on? What are the precautions that we need to take while we study this Indian knowledge system? This is how the talk will go. In fact, he was quoting, I saw, Devan bhavayatanena te deva bhavayantuvaha parasparam bhavayantaha shreyah param avapsiyatha. This is a profound philosophy, but I wanted to show this for a different purpose. Generally, the picture that one has about this Indian knowledge system is some Veda, some mantra, some ritual, some puja and so on and so forth. In fact, that is the kind of picture I also had at some point of time. At some point of time when I say till my post-graduation was over. See, not that as a school boy, but even as a postgraduate student who completed engineering, physics and so on, I had, this is the kind of picture. I hailed from a certain traditional family. My great-grandfather was a Vedic teacher, he ran Pathshala and so on. So we learnt all that. So our idea was, these mantras are chanted in some yagas and for specific purposes, and for puja you do this mantras and so on and so forth. This is the one kind of picture that I was having. But they have a very profound meaning, even these, but the scripture itself says, see, in fact not only here, so you are quoting this Devan Bhavayatanena in a different context, how so government and manager and boss and all these people have to integrate themselves and how one has to have a good feeling about the other, otherwise it will not be. See, doctor has to have concern about the patient, patient has to have respect over the doctor. Yeah, nahi hoga to kya hoga? See, if you invite some management consultant, I mean he is just coming and taking 50,000, ye kya bolta hai? So suppose you have this feeling. So nothing will work. So since I have been hired, I have to do justice is the feeling that we should have. That is what he was trying to communicate. Now, this is something which is taken at a much larger level in our scriptures. See, when you talk about Devan, it is not I invite Mahadevan and some company owner, it is not like that. So, one is intangible element. You understand, when you talk about this Devata, it is not something which is tangible to you. So, that is where, so the other forces he was talking about, Adhishthanam Tatha Karta, Daivan Chevatra Panchamam, there are various invariable, see, variables and not so visible variables, and the connections, some are visible, some are not visible, there are so various complexities are involved there. So, keeping all this in mind, they have said this. In fact, this has been beautifully, since I was talking about Kalidasa, he says, see, Dudohagam Sayajnaya Sasyaya Maghava Divam Sampad Vinimhaye. See, we have our Sampadananda Mishra here. Sampad Vinimaye no bhau dadhatur bhuvanadvayam. It's a very beautiful verse. See, Dudohagam Sayajnaya. See, Gam means not the cow. He doesn't talk about the milking of cow. Gam means Prithvi. See, Dudohagam Sayajnaya. So, you try to extract things from the mother earth. So, everything is sort of given to you. Sasyaya Maghava. See, Maghava means Indra. So, you have a certain transaction which takes place between this and the other world. Other world means other forces. See, you try to connect with them. Sampad Vinimayena Ubhau Dadhatur Bhuvanadvayam. They were milking both of the worlds. See, Dadhatuhu Bhuvanadvayam. This is a beautiful concept that is there. And of course, we have this, see, Sabhyuthitagni Pishunaihi Atithin Ashramon Mukhan Punanam Pavanodhutaihi Dhumaira Huti Gandhibhihi. These are all some beautiful verses which we have in Raghuvamsha. So, where it talks about some intricate connections which we are not able to see. Let me tell you one example. See, since this management session was over, it just came to my mind. I had some close interaction with some really multimillionaires in Chennai. They have some companies not only here, across India and so on, abroad also. Some really Once I had some close conversation with the house person. So, she was telling me that my husband, who went to Harvard to study this business management, etc., whatever decision he takes, it is a failure. My father-in-law, who has hardly studied some BCom or whatever it is, he goes to Sringeri Acharya, he goes to Tirumala, and then whatever decision he takes is successful. This is an admission, I am not joking. I mean, this was really happening. So, this is something, not only this, I mean, this is not this person told me. In fact, we had a lecture about 15 years ago. Somebody from University of Chicago, he is a well-known professor in game theory and so on and so forth. He came and gave a talk. So, he talked for about an hour and then finally he said, see, I am consultant to various Fortune 500 companies. But let me tell you finally the truth. So, he said, see, so all the analysis that we do, so I correlated when he made this statement, whatever I had heard from this business lady. So, he said, see, whatever analysis we do some statistics based analysis, etc., it need not necessarily be true that whatever suggestion we gave is the right decision. The owner of the company has some faith and he has some intuition and he comes up with some solution, and that turns out to be a much better solution in many cases than what we recommend. So, this is what he said. No, what I am trying to say is, it is a very complicated thing that we need to understand. So, just to speaking to what he was saying and trying to impress upon. So, these are certain things which we forget. Okay. So, that is what I think is being taken care. If we carefully analyze and try to understand what is being conveyed here, rather than merely dismissing that these are superstitions and so on and so forth, etc. But anyway, so this picture is shown to tell you that generally people have this kind of a conception that Sanskrit means this, where the knowledge system means this, etc. The other thing that one can think of is, of course, we have this bhajans, various things. So, today we had this brilliant presentation, see, by our brahmachari here. So sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami. That is also fine. There is nothing wrong in that. So you just say different people at different stages, all of them have to be, all people do not have the same kind of interest. So in order to take care of all of them only, this Bhagavatpada who wrote the commentary of Brahma Sutra, which is the toughest text in the world, okay, I can tell you for sure. So the one who made a commentary for that in such a cogent manner, he has written so many stotras, Ganesha Pancharatnam, Subramanya Bhujangam, blah, 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 all that. Why? Bhaja Govindam, Govindam, Bhaja Bhunapate. Why did he say? He would have said, so forget all this, do the Brahma Vichara. He would have said, no. So different people are there, all of them have to be taken. Society is mixed, they are completely mixed, and everyone's interest has to be taken care. So now this is also another interesting means. See, in fact, I must tell you, the best thing that I enjoyed, of course I enjoyed Mahadevan's lecture, but I enjoyed far more. See, all of us were just simply transcended, right? When he sings ha completely, see, we are just mesmerized. So that has its own, in fact, there is a nice shloka. Sangeetam api sahityam sarasvatyastanadvayam ekam apatamadhuram anyad alochanamritam. See, the beautiful poet, he says, Sangeeta Sahitya. See, Sangeetam api sahityam. You can write 100 treatises on music, but there is nothing like doing it in practice. 100 treatises, how can it give you the feel for the music when someone sings? So this is non-literary, it is an experience by itself. So dance, performance is an experience, you can just describe things. Okay. So Sangeetam api sahityam, there are two types of things. Okay. Literary, non-literary, performing arts and then something literary. Okay. Sarasvatyastanadvayam ekam apatamadhuram anyad alochanamritam. Okay. So that is what? So alochanamritam is this. See, so see, we also enjoy, see, immersing in Bhagavad Gita, immersing the beauty of it, immersing in Brahma Sutras, understanding Chanda Shastra, whatever it is. Okay. So these are definitely IKS, but that is not only IKS, there is far more in IKS. Okay. So this is the picture that I was having initially, okay, that I don't know of any science and technology in IKS. So what happened was, my eyes was opened up, okay. At some point, after my post-graduation, I had an occasion to enter into a certain project where I was actually, this is all happened through providence. See, I was drawn into studying this scientific aspects of something. Okay, this all just happened. Somebody came to my house, invited me, you have to work in this project. It just, I was drawn into it. Now, when I started looking at some ancient text which refers to a variety of branches of knowledge, and I discovered this, I felt very happy. See, this is a question, this many of the students in Vedanta would have heard this, Tarati Shokam Atmavit, you have heard this, right? Why are you studying Vedanta? Atmavit Shokam Tarati, that is the prayojana. So if you understand the real nature of Atman, that he is eternal, he is different from this mind body sense complex, all that I try to associate, he is some aspect of my body I identify as myself. So that is why you get into various problems. Atmavitu Shokam Tarati. So you don't have any kind of complexes about your physical body or about your own intellect, etc., etc. So which actually binds you and makes you feel depressed, right? So now this Atmavit Shokam Tarati, in that context, so the Shruti in Chandogya Upanishad, somebody was mentioning now, this Chandogya Upanishad, this is the Sanat Kumara Narada Samvada. See, this is how it states. Adihi Bhagavaitiha Upasasada Sanat Kumaram Naradaha Tam Hovacha Yadvetha Tena Mopasida Tatastasya Urdhvam Vakshyami Iti Sahovacha. See, Narada met Sanat Kumara. Okay, he was quoting from Prashna Upanishad, where 6 rishis, Sukeshata, Bharadwajaha, they all go to Pipalada. Similarly, Narada goes to Sanat Kumara. And then he says, Adhihivo Bhagavaha. See, nowadays, our own students, many of them I tell you, they may not know, but they feel like saying, sir, I want to have this discussion with you. No, you please teach me why. Now, why don't ask you that? That is the Garva level, you understand? Okay. And many of these fellows just, no, I am just saying, see this, the approach is, so knowledge, in fact, let me tell you, Vittam bandhurvayah karma vidya bhavati panchami etani manyasthanani gariyo yadyaduttaram. Says 5 things. What? Vittam. See, wealthy people, they have to be respected. Bandhuhu, a relative, he has to be respected. Vayaha, age, it is to be respected. Karma, the kind of duty that you do has to be respected. Finally, he says Vidya. Vittam bandhurvayah karma vidya bhavati panchami etani manyasthanani. All of them have to be respected. But then the final quarter of the verse says Gariyo yadyaduttaram. See, the one which succeeds is something which is superior to the one which precedes it. See, so that is why, so even if he is young, a scholar, okay, so he is, in fact, I did not know this verse. This was again in, like I told you today morning, see, Viyati Bahutaram. I went to Kerala for a conference. After doing this address, some very elderly person, so he had this vibhuti and all that, he was little walking with a stick. And after that, he wanted to just quickly comment. And then he said, Namaskara, he was just doing. I said, you are very old, so you should not do this, I said. So he told me, no, Vidya has this superior sthana than all other things, he said. Then I wanted to do some investigation, where is it stated? He said, it is there in our Smriti, he said. So then I came to know about this verse. See, there are so many things which where in practice they may not know. See, so my great grandmother, they may not know the shlokas, but they had all of them, many of them in practice. So these are things which have been really thought out and then presented in the text. Now coming to this aspect, so Adhihivo Bhagavaha. Bhagavaha means, oh respected sir, so kindly teach me. This is how he goes. Sanat Kumaram Naradaha. Now, Yadvetha Tenamopasida. He says, you tell me what you have studied, then we will discuss further. This is what he says. Yadvetha means whatever you know. So you tell me that. Tataha urdhvam vakshyami. I will tell you further. Okay, that's what he says. Now, Narada presents a big list. You see, Rigvedam Bhagavodhyemi, Yajurvedam Samavedam, Atharvanam Chaturtham, Itihasa Puranam, Panchamam Vedanam, Vedam Pitryam Rashim, Daivam Nitim Vako Vakyam Ekayanam, Deva Vidyam, Brahma Vidyam, Bhuta Vidyam, Kshatra Vidyam, Nakshatra Vidyam, Sarpa Devajana Vidyam, Etad Bhagavodhyemi. So almost some 20 disciplines have been listed here. See, when does this disciplinary classification start? Only when you have a huge corpus of knowledge in each of these disciplines, right? So Narada tells Sarat Kumara, so which means these branches of knowledge have been divided long back. So this IKS is as old as Upanishad. So then itself we had various branches. And you see here, this Rashi basically means mathematics. Rashi. See, Bhagavad Pada, here he will say, see, where is that? See, Rashim Ganitam. See, today morning I was mentioning this Kalidasa saying, right? So this you see, Daivam Utpata Jnanam. See, Utpata Jnanam means certain indicators are there. You may know, you may not know. Daivam has various connotations in various places. So here you see Nidhim. So there are so many, Vako Vakyam, Tarka Shastram, Ekayanam, Niti Shastram. Ekayanam is a beautiful phrase for Niti Shastram. That is the only means. The whole society has to benefit. Ekayanam, ekameva ayanam. You understand? See, dharma is the only means. Okay. Ekayanam niti shastram deva vidyam, so on and so forth. You see, nakshatra vidyam. See, astronomy. So there are so many other things. See, gandha yukti nritya gita vadya shilpadi vijnanani. See, so all of them I know, he says. So now there could be some doubt whether Narada is bluffing. How can anybody know all of them? So this is our own limited thing, I am telling you. Even in the recent times. So look at Appaya Dikshita, just 500 years before. Even forget Appaya Dikshita, even 100 years ago you see. There are so many stalwarts who come up. So the moment they see, it could be etad janmani grihitam jnanam, janmantare grihitam jnanam, it just becomes udbuddha in some other cases. See, so it just comes up. So it is possible that mind can take, even today there are so many people who know all the Chaturveda well, and there are so many other things. So that faculty is something which is now the point is soham bhagavaha mantra videva asmi na atmavit. See, shrutam hyeva bhagavadrishebhyaha tarati shokam atmavit. Okay. Now the reason for quoting this is to just tell you that so several thousands of years ago, so all these different branches of knowledge have been segregated and studied by people. Okay, this is all the literary aspect of it. Etad bhagavaha adhyemi. Adhyemi simply means guru uchcharana manu uchcharana. Okay, so I go and study with a teacher. Okay, so this is how it has happened in those days. Okay, all of them. Then, so what are the different branches of science and technology in which Indians have excelled? So here you had some of them were simply touched upon by Professor Mahadevan during his lecture. He was talking of this iron and steel. So I will talk about one or two things and so on. Okay. So but this itself is a beautiful branch of knowledge. Okay. So medicinal, psychological, and then we had town planning, textile, construction of temple, shipbuilding, and so on and so forth. These are all technological aspects. There are so many other things which I have not listed, but these are simple samples, on which you find several texts also, as I told you. Now, it is this huge corpus which has been understood by Swami Vivekananda in some sense, and then he talks about this. See, he says if there is one word in English language to represent the gift of India to the world, if there is one word in English language to express the effect which the literature of India produces upon mankind, it is one word: fascination. See, many of you would have felt that today, even by having a glimpse of it. So Vivekananda was able to see a much larger picture, and then he presents it. See, the moment we come to understand that so much is existing, it's really fascinating. I tell you, recently, I was just telling yesterday, so our Vivek Dalmyaji, when we were traveling, I just had a look at this Chanda Shastra very recently. Simply mind-boggling to see the kind of questions that have been posed by them. I don't know whether you were there. Morning I touched upon that. See, one particular thing, if you just see, it really strikes some 2500 years ago, the kind of mathematical problems purely, okay, so which can be described as pure mathematics, so have been attempted by these people, and the solutions to them have been discussed in a completely different way. Let me tell you in one instance, it just happened. This Indian knowledge system, he was jocularly saying Bharat knowledge system. Now this Bharatiya Jnana Parampara. Now let us not bother about that. So I will tell you, so some people have this kind of a feeling. So let me just tell you, because if you come across this, you should be able to present your view clearly. Somebody was asking, let me just tell you the instance itself. So when I went to this US embassy, okay, so this I am talking about 16, 17 years ago. So I went for a visa. So then, almost 20 years ago. I went for a visa. This officer was asking, why are you going to US? I said, I am going to give a talk in a conference. What is the topic on which you are going to give? Then I said, Indian astronomy. Then he told me, astronomy is astronomy, what is Indian about it? This was the question he was asking. So then I told him, astronomy is astronomy, that is true, but so Mahadevan was saying demographically, geographically, all that he was saying. But let me tell you something else. I told him, that's okay, but the purpose for which it has been developed, the methodology in which it is developed, the way it has been presented to us, the way it has been transmitted from generation to generation, all of them completely differ. And therefore, there is enough reason to say this is Indian, that is Greek. Okay. So this is completely, so similarly people say, so some people have this, somehow this kind of a complex, you should not call anything Indian. So they say Indian mathematics is a wrong term, mathematics in India, that is what you have to say. Why? So when do we use an adjective? We use an adjective to distinguish something from something, right? So they just want to have this geographical thing, not the content, you understand? So the approach is different, the purpose is different, how they have attempted to solve this problem is different, and therefore in order to distinguish you have to say this. So a human being is a human being. Why classify Indian, Chinese? Because the characteristics are different. Even the physical characteristics are different. So one cannot ask questions like that. Now I am saying, so this is something which is really fascinating. If you look at the way it has been transmitted and the kind of, see where do you find this kind of a sutra? Where do you find today morning? I mean, you should all go and see this exhibit. These people are so nicely singing. Vritta kshetre baridhamitaha. So can you ever think of mathematics sung like this? Codified like this? I mean, it is a joy. The children will enjoy. So why have shy to say all this? So that is why he says it is fascination. See, the way it has been transmitted. You look at the palm leaf manuscript, how they have written. Many of you would not have occasions. I have had the occasion to see of late. Today we have all kinds of, see, for typing one sentence we have to think, and then correcting one sentence we have to think twice, and then making the typos in doing all this we have to correct 3-4 times. This is how we do today. On the other hand, you look at the way they have written. This palm leaf, if you write something, can you correct? See how it has been preserved. So if you have to have a look at it. So you can't keep writing and rewriting. Impossible. So the kind of meticulousness with which they plan and the way they execute them is all something which is very fascinating. That is what Vivekananda tries to imply here. Not only the body of knowledge, but the processes adopted to embody that knowledge and the process that have been adopted to transmit the knowledge from generation to generation to see that. See, one of the reasons could be for facilitating the transmission. You had a oral system, if you have something in the form of a song, finished, you can easily memorize. But if you have some prose, you will keep on forgetting. So these are things which have to be, and if you connect one sutra with the other sutra, even if you see Panini system or other systems, so they all have some great benefit, and this is something which we need to understand. That is what he means by fascination here. He says it is the opposite of anything that takes you suddenly, it throws on you as it were a charm imperceptibly. This is another thing, this is the general observation that he makes. To many, Indian thought, Indian manners, Indian customs, Indian philosophy, Indian literature are repulsive at the first sight. But at least after 50, 60, it is not repulsive. See, it may be repulsive in 20s, but all the 60s who have realized have to communicate to the 20s. See, that you will really benefit by them. But for that you have to first of all practice. I will practice different thing, how will they practice? So these are things which we need to understand. See, But he says, see, but let them persevere, let them read, let them become familiar with the great principles underlying these ideas. See, so that is what it is. See, great principle underlying these ideas. That, see, first of all, we have to convince them. See, suppose you talk about mid-age crisis, okay, which may happen in 45, 50 or sometimes a little before. How would a fellow at 25 or 15 realize mid-age crisis? I have to understand. How can you understand? So I am worrying. How will a 6-year-old boy worry? You can't make him worry. You can't stop me worry. So these are things which we need to understand, and we have to just clearly communicate to them. So slow and silent as the gentle dew that falls in the morning, unseen and unheard, yet producing a most tremendous result, that, see, has been work of the calm, patient, all suffering spiritual race upon the world of thought. See? So this is a very, very powerful statement which I really liked, which summarizes, see, what this IKS is all about. See, it is not something at the first glance you will see, but you have to slowly get into it. So with an open mind. We just need an open mind, that's all, nothing more. Okay. And talking about the antiquity, I wanted to make only one observation. Here, there is an interesting statement which has been made by a great scientist. He was a geologist, physicist and so on. In those days, the subdivisions were not there. See, today somebody will look into only a part of your eye. The other fellow has to look into other part of the eye. And the third fellow has to look into something else. You may have to go to some series of half a dozen doctors to just see that whether your eye is okay or not. No, I am not trying to undermine, but I am just saying, so this generally happens. So somebody will know how to dig the road, the other fellow will know how to fill the road. So this fellow will say that he would have done this, and so there will be a lot of slips here and there. Anyway, so that this man, John Playfair, he was a brilliant scientist in various disciplines. He mastered. And then he says, so this is, in those days, I am talking about 250 years ago. So the civilized, though Newton's laws were all established, etc., but it was not so widely spread and they were not put to all sorts of practical purposes for calculations. So calculations were done in different civilizations in their own ways. But this across civilization, the knowledge transmission had taken place. And then some of the methods which the Indians have been employing to find out the planetary positions got transmitted to the Europe, okay, to the Western world. Now, having analyzed this, is a beautiful paper which is around 40-50 pages or little more than that, very tightly written. So I have not fully read that paper, but I have read certain sections of that paper. And the paper is titled as On the Astronomy of the Brahmins. Okay. So this got published in Royal Asiatic Transactions of the Royal Asiatic Society, Edinburgh. In that, so he makes this interesting observation that having analyzed the kind of predictions that can be made based on the calculations, he found that the predictions which are made by the Indian calendrical calculations are far superior to the other kind of calendrical calculations, and therefore, being astonished by the accuracy with which these people could do, he makes 3 hypotheses. One, he says it is all pure coincidence. That is a possibility, right? You make a prediction, it is a coincidence. But then it can't repeat. Therefore, he had to abandon that hypothesis. Then he says, second thing, some ages ago there had arisen a Newton among the Brahmins to discover the universal principle which connects. Okay, this is the second thing, that is, but there can't be a Newton among the Brahmins, right? So that is also not possible. I mean, from different viewpoint I am saying, there was no Newton, let us say, in the sense of those who could mathematically quantify them, and Lagrange and so on. Then the third thing that he says is, observations were made in India when all Europe was barbarous or uninhabited, and those made in Europe 5000 years afterwards come in mutual support. You see the antiquity that he wants to put. So that is how you see the observation, Nakshatra Vidyam in the Chandogya Upanishad. So this is something which has been practiced over thousands and thousands of years, and that is how we were able to arrive at certain accuracies. Okay. So that is what he wants to say. And you can see this in the kind of table that is being given in various texts. For instance, this Aryabhatiya has this, see, you see, they talk about this 43,20,000 years, and then you see the accuracy with which the period of rotation of the earth has been determined. So this basically you can either call as, one is rotation of the earth, the other is revolution of the, today we know that it is revolving. So on the other hand, people thought that the sun is moving around you. Equivalent, that's all. Sun comes back to the same star. But how do you know sun has come back to the same star? You can't even see the star when the sun is. Then how will you determine the period? See, it is so accurate. So this should have happened over thousands of years. Okay. So that's what the moon is far more accurate and so on and so forth. Now, I will tell you, somebody had this hesitation. See, this Professor Mahadevan and me were in some committees. So this school framing, national curriculum framework and so on and so forth, this national education policy is happening. So we strongly recommended that Sanskrit has to be introduced and various mathematical things have to be introduced. Then there is something called Bhuta Sankhya has to be introduced. Okay. So this Bhuta Sankhya, you know what is Bhuta Sankhya? No? So it is one form of representing numbers. Okay. Suppose I say Netra, what does it mean? I, it represents number 2, you understand? Suppose I say Veda, what number does it represent? 4, this is like that, okay. Yuga also, what will it represent? 4, we have Krita, Treta, Dwapara, Kali. This is what is called Bhuta Sankhya. Now this person said, somebody said, so we can't introduce Bhuta Sankhya in one of the boards. I said, why? He said that will be branded as religious. So Veda, how can you introduce Veda? How can you introduce Yuga? He asked me. Then I asked him, why are you saying so? He said, see, some Muslim may be there, some Christian may be there in the class. Then I asked him, so suppose he is a Muslim, so will he say, oh, the Veda is 6 instead of 4? What is wrong in saying that Veda is 4 means 4, I mean it doesn't matter. So this is the kind of people mindset that we have today. He was asking, then Yuga you are saying 4. What is the basis for this? He said. Then I said, what is the basis for you to say that it is meaningless? I asked him. So that fellow does not know. In fact, Yuga, I mean they have given this number. So in fact they have also given this in the text. See, Yujyante asmin grahaha iti yugam. Understand? It's a beautiful way. Yugam means something coming together. See, Grahaha Yujyante means all the planets which make some revolutions, I mean they come once again to the same point close. See, they come very close to that. Yujyante means they are just coming close to that. So this is a period which has been determined by these people based on the numerical values that they have generated over thousands of years of observation, and then they have arrived at this interesting period. So this many of us do not know, and then they just keep saying various things. Okay, and I just wanted to tell you that these kind of calculations have given rise to, okay, so various interesting mathematical techniques, first order indeterminate equation, second order indeterminate equation, and so on, how to solve them. There is another thing which I wanted to tell you. This has to do with the approach to the science. Okay, this is one major distinction which I have seen. Of late, there is a change in the way people have started looking at things. The change is the following. Initially, even today, there are so many people who have blind faith in science. Somebody was asking in some meeting. Okay, somebody, I don't know whether you were there. This is one of the panels. Sir, you talk about various things in Shastra, etc., and you say this mantra has this value and so on. Does it not amount to blind faith? He is asking me. Then I said, how about blind faith in science? So there are so many things which we go as if it is, there is the way it will be presented as if it is an eternal truth. It is like this body mass index. Okay, they will say if it is above 25, then you are diabetic. This is all this fellow says. Okay, I attended a conference in Kansas City. There, they felt this is all completely meaningless. One fellow has 22, 21 BMI, he is acute diabetic. Other fellow has 30 BMI. So many civilizations, there are various civilizations, see, which get accustomed to various things. So they get accustomed to various things. There is nothing which is universal about it. Okay. So with respect to the science, there is an interesting statement that has been made by Indian astronomers. Right from the time of Aryabhata, it has to do with a larger understanding of what science is, what the purpose of science is, and how the science progresses. This is slightly different from the way the Western science has progressed. I will tell you, because I did my PhD in nonlinear dynamics and chaos, in that field at least I know. So in the beginning of 20th centuries, when they were discovering law after law, so many things came up. The physicists had the audacity to say that we have discovered more or less all the laws, okay, so by which the universe functions. And then if only we had a machinery which will be able to handle all the calculation, then I will be able to predict what the universe will be after a few hundred years later. But then there came a thunderbolt upon them. See, in 1960s, when nonlinear dynamics and chaos came up, okay, they understood that all the physical systems are highly nonlinear in nature. So that's what Mahadevan was saying. See, so he was just jocularly saying astrologer, weather prediction and stock market, he was just saying. See, what I wanted to say was, we have today arrived at a very clear understanding that we don't have a clear solution for anything which is non-linear in nature. So only for linear systems we have found some certain solutions clearly. And most of the systems are non-linear in nature, and therefore the duration for which you can predict. That's why, I mean, there is nothing wrong in what meteorology does or why it fails, etc. We need to understand that the system is such that it is so complex that it cannot be simply captured by simple equation that we are trying to draw. So you can only do for a short period, and with a certain probability, he was just talking of R square and so on and so forth. So we can do only for some time. So the other things are more complicated. So we may think that these physical systems are just behaving in a particular manner. That is also not true. That is why I am coming to this statement. So here, yatha nishi paryatatam pradipadibihi swasamipagata pradeshaha yavadapeksham drishyah evam sarvairapi swasamipabhavah kalaha yavadapeksham anumeyaha evam tithyadikam samyak anumiya kalam yapayanti. What does he say? What is the duration of a tithi? What is the duration of a month? What is the duration of a year? Will you be able to give me some number which will be valid forever? The answer is no. The duration of the year, whatever it is, all these phenomena are susceptible to change. That is what I want to drive, and that has been very clearly stated with a beautiful example in our system. He says, yatha nishi paryatatam, means as you go in the night, in the dark, you carry a lamp with you. Carrying a lamp is like having an equation to predict. You understand? Yatha nishi paryatatam swasamipagataha kalaha. Swasamipagataha pradeshaha. The lamp will not throw light to all things which are far off from you. It can only throw light only to certain limit. So samipagataha pradeshaha yavadapeksham drisyaha evam sarvairapi swasamipabhavah kalaha yavadapeksham anumeyaha. So you can't govern a policy and then say this will be valid for this company forever, then you will be doomed. Okay, so it will keep changing depending on various other factors. So, this is a certain understanding that has been arrived with respect to the science in general, okay, the medical science, whether it is this science or this science or the economic science. So, there is nothing which can be predicted forever. So, this is a beautiful thing. So, this is something which became very evident to us, see, when this big disaster happened in March 11, 2011. So, many of you would have heard about this huge thing, disaster that happened in Japan because of a huge burst in the Pacific Ocean. See, almost 10,000 people lost their lives, 10 to the power 5 buildings collapsed in Japan. The entire Honshu island got shifted, okay, because of a huge tide, almost 150 feet height. That is what happened, okay. And as a result of that, see, the rotational period of the earth changed, okay. So, this is all certain things which we do not know, and in fact, let me tell you, all of us think, I mean, suppose I were to ask you, what is the duration of the year? What is the duration of the year? 365 days, 365. So, then what is year I have to ask? So, if you define the year as the sun returning back to the same position or the earth returning back to the same position, then it will go, it is not 365 or 365.25, but it will be 25268, whatever number which will have. But this number which we have is going to be affected by various phenomena that is happening. And I will tell you that this thing that, see, today we say it is 365 days, okay. Now, if you just go back, so people having understood all these things are happening, so there is a continuous decrease in the speed of the rotation of the earth. What does this mean? This means that millions of years ago, the number of days in the year would have been more, exactly. So, it has been estimated that it was more than 400 at some point of time. Okay, the number of days in the year was more than 400 at some point of time, and it has been continuously decreasing. But this particular phenomenon which happened in Japan increased the rotational period. There are certain factors which will reduce, there are certain factors which can increase. So, the point I wanted to drive was, there was a much larger understanding that the science of astronomy can give you some numbers, and these numbers can be valid only for a certain limited period of time. This is something which is a larger understanding of science, okay. So, this is something which you can see in these texts very clearly, and I also wanted to tell you that this is some of the household, I do not know if any of you have seen the Calcutta belt, something like this, किसी का घर में नहीं देखे है ना, वो तो साउथ में तो थोड़ा है. So, at least in a few places you will see that household will have this kind of a thing in one room, where they will perform on a daily basis some ritual. This is called Upasanam, Agnihotram and so on, okay. So, where did mathematics and science arise? So, initially in these things. See, in fact, I must tell you that they have made some beautiful exhibits here. So, you must all go and see this Shena Chiti, Kurma Chiti, etc. they have made here. See, there are 5 layers they have made. आपने देखा? आपने किया? So, this is something which some volunteers have done, taken very interest, and they have done that. A nice thing. No, why I am saying is, see, in Veda we have certain prescriptions. See, Shena Chitan Chinvita, Kurma Chitan Chinvita, Rasachakra Chitan Chinvita, these are all stated in the Vedas. So, these mantras prescribe some shape for this, and later you had a certain literature which gives you how to build the shape, and various constraints have to be considered into account. And here again, even this simple construction as it looks like, see, you have imposed the constraint that a circle, a square and a semicircle, all of them should have the same area. Ab batao. So, how will you make a square a circle? ये तो बिल्कुल नहीं possible. But you know that the area of circle बताइए क्या है? Pi r square. ये pi क्या है? 22/7 is not the exact value. 3.14 भी सही नहीं है. वो तो जाता है See, this is not something which can be represented as the ratio of two numbers. You understand? So, you can only get some approximate value. The approximation can be correct to 1 decimal, 2 decimal, 3 decimal, 5 decimal, it can go to 5 million decimal also. Okay? But it is an approximation ultimately. So, that is how the mathematics arises. See, you want to compute something, okay? So, then you come across various kinds of constraints giving rise to various mathematical problems. Okay? That is all I wanted to convey here. So, this is something which they have made. I am showing one layer. You go to the exhibition, you will see the second layer and so on and so forth. See, if you want to have stability, then you should have different shapes. They will say the total number is 200, but then if you just keep piling, everything will collapse. See, you don't have this, as I was saying, Fevikwik, Fevibond, you cannot put. You have to just pile the bricks, that's all. Okay? So, that is how we have various mathematical things coming. Okay, another instance in which mathematics comes. See, we have some beautiful songs which are being composed. So, Bengali has various kinds of things. So, Kannada will have literature, Tamil Nadu will have, Telugu will have. So, different languages have different kinds of musical constructions, metrical constructions. So, Sanskrit has a much better variety and analysis has been done, and it is considered as one of the branches of study itself. That is what is called Chandas Shastra. Okay? Chandas Shastra. It is considered as a Vedanga. Why Vedanga? Because the Veda itself has various metrical compositions. So, this Veda, the compositions came from the human mind, and later when people looked at these compositions, they tried to recognize a certain pattern in the compositions, and these patterns are given some names, and then you find it is like this, no? A great musician comes up with some raga. Okay, if it is something which is not existing, then you try to give some name to the raga, and then that will get added to the literature, musical literature. Similarly, this Chandas Shastra also is like this. So, the initial thing which were available some 2500 years ago have been codified by Pingala Naga in his Chandas Shastra. But then you will find later various other kinds of metrical compositions which have been added to the literature at a much later time. So, Chandas Shastra has two sections. One is this Vaidika meter, the other is Laukika meter. See, Vaidikan Chandaha, Laukikan Chandaha, and so on. So, there are various things. So, there I wanted to just tell you that if you just divide all the syllables, see, as Guru, Laghu, etc., there is a lot of mathematics that gets generated, and there is a lot of combinatorics which come into picture. Okay, I will leave this. These are all little technical. So, suppose you have a 4-syllabled meter. आप थोड़ा पहले ही पढ़े थे, नहीं पढ़े थे, या पढ़े थे पहले? Okay. Because yesterday I was just telling, he was very quickly following. So, at the age of 60, 70, I don't expect somebody to follow so quickly. Okay. So, anyway, I am just saying, I mean, some people are still sharp and agile. I have seen people even at the 80, some people, they are blessed people. So, normally the mind sort of goes down, okay. Beyond 45, thoda aisa jata hai. So, idhar se udhar jata hai, kyon jata hai, wo bhi bhul jata hai. See, so this is what happens to many people. And जब बात करते रहते हैं तो वो भी आदमी नहीं था, ये पहले क्या बोला, so हाँ 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 बोलेगा, फिर क्या बोला. Anyway, so this see, we have heard of this Fibonacci sequence and so on. So all of them combust. The Fibonacci sequence, these are all simply arising out of the study of metrical pattern in Chandas Shastra. In fact, I must tell you, I was so fascinated by this Chandas Shastra. So, in the next month, this Madras Sanskrit College, they asked me to come and give a talk. I told them, if you agree that I will speak on Chandas Shastra, then I will come, otherwise I will not come. Okay, so I just wanted to share that, the joy that I experienced in studying some of them. See, that is what Vivekananda said, fascination. आप सबको पढ़ना है, तो इनको थोड़ा तकलीफ दीजिए. विवेक दाग में थोड़ा पढ़ाते हैं, और कोई भी है वहाँ सन्यासी है, ब्रह्मचारी है, आप बार बार जाके आके पूछिए, समय दे दो जो पढ़ते हैं. So this is how it has to flourish, there is no other go. Okay. Now you see there is a very interesting calculation that has been done. See, suppose I were to ask you, suppose I give you 3 syllables. Let us take 2 syllables. Okay, 2 syllables. How many forms can you have? Shiva. So what is the pattern? Laghu Laghu. Sita, Guru Guru. Rama, Laghu Guru. Rama, Guru Laghu. So with 2 syllables you can have 4 patterns. Suppose I give you 3 syllables. How many patterns can you have? 9 nahi. Each one will be 2. Each syllable can be 2. 2 into 2 into 2, 8 होगा, है ना? तो अभी 26 syllables तक जाइए. ये जो मंदाक्रांता बोल रहे थे 17 syllables. So मंदाक्रांता is only one pattern of the 2 to the power 17 patterns that you can have. 2 to the 17 is a huge number. You understand? 2 to the 3 is 8. 2 to the 10 itself is 1032. You understand? 2 to the 17 is a very large number. Now the mathematical problem is, मैं आपको 26 syllables तक दे दूंगा, इसमें कितना patterns हो सकता है? Up to 26. Up to 26 means you have to count. See, so 2 plus 2 to the 2 square plus 2 to the 3 plus 2 to the power plus 2 to the 26. n is equal to 26 डालना पड़ेगा. Why n is equal to 26? Up to that you find some what is called samavritta. See, there are 3 kinds of chandas. One is ganachanda, the other is matra chanda, the other is akshara chanda. What we are talking is akshara chanda. Okay. So in that this will be the pattern. Now I found an interesting verse which gives this. Shadvimshati saptashatani chaiva tatha sahasranyapi saptapanktihi lakshani drigveda susammitani kotyastatha ramanisha karaisyuhu. So this verse basically gives you this number. See, 13 crore 42 lakh 17,726. ये कैसा यह श्लोक बताता है देखिए. See, षड्विंशति. षड्विंशति means vimshati is 26. षड्विंशति means 26. You start from this number 26. सप्तशतानि 700. 726 आ गया. तथा सहस्राण्यपि सप्त. See, sapta panktihi. Sapta is 7. Panktihi means 10. How is pankti 10? Pankti. So we have daily we say, but we don't recall. Gayatri, Ushnik, Anushtup, Brahati, Pankti. No. No. Gayatri is 6 syllable meter. Ushnik is 7 syllable. Anushtup is 8 syllable. Trishtup, see Gayatri, Ushnik, Anushtup, Brahati. Pankti is 10 syllable. Trishtup is 11. Jagati is 12 syllable. So that is how Pankti is 10. Sapta Panktihi. Then Lakshani. How many Lakshas? Drigveda. Abhi boliye. Not Rigveda. Drik means, आप सब सुने होंगे दृग दृश्य विवेका. Drik means eyes, 2. Drik means 2. Veda is, that is all. You see, 42 lakhs. Lakshani drigveda susammitani. Then kotyastatha. How many kotis are there? Rama nisha karaihi. Rama. 3 Rama. Kausa. Ayodhya Rama, Balarama and Parashurama. See this Bhuta Sankhya, no, I'll just tell you why I wanted to sell this was, see, you have to convey the number in the form of a beautiful verse. Verse has its own constraints. So if you simply say, so that big number, you will not be able to put in the form of verses. Remembering all that, no, remembering is one aspect, but the other aspect is you are constrained to invent systems by which you will be able to. Now if you teach them, our fellows will know our culture, our fellows know our Puranas also. इसको पढ़ाने में क्या तकलीफ है? ये बोलते हैं ये secular नहीं होगा. So that is the feeling that mindset को बदलना है. Okay, so that's what. Now Rama is that. Nishakara. See, निशाचरा क्या है बोलिए? राक्षस. So हम सब निशाचर है, तो वो so ये तो निशाकरा है. So nishakara means one who makes the moon, makes the night. Sorry, nisham, chandra. Okay, so the one who makes the night beautiful, rather. That's all. So in those days, if you want to go around in the night with some beloved, so ये तो निशाकरा बहुत मदद करेगा. So nisham karoti means he makes the night. You understand? Makes the night means, so that is what it is. Okay, so nishakara, the moon is only one, and therefore Rama nishakara means 13. आ गया? So 13 crore. This is how it is stated. Okay, so now no, ये सब देखिए. So all that I wanted to convey was, see how mathematics is nicely connected with poetry and analysis of the poetry. That is what it is. Poetry is something which comes out of human imagination, but this is something which has been taken little further to analyze how many possible patterns could be there. It is like asking how many ragas can be composed, and there are various kinds of constraints that you can impose. So that is why, so I was telling in the morning that you see some 88 crore and 19, but if you actually consider little more variation, it can grow much, blow out, huge numbers are possible. It is essentially the Chandas Shastra gives rise to the origins of what we call as combinatorics today. In fact, one can also say that this Chandas Shastra, if you carefully analyze, it has all the binary arithmetic associated with that. See, binomial coefficients associated with that. So these are things that we need to teach our children. ये सो पास्कल ने किया, या फर्मा ने किया, फिबोनाची ने किया, न्यूटन ने किया, लेबनिज ने किया, हमने क्या किया? कुछ नहीं किया. ये वेद पाठ किया. ये पुराण प्रवचन किया. So this is not that. In fact, we have done enormous amount of things which other worlds did not even think of. That is the kind of thing that, see, if you have to create certain pride in nation, you have to just make them aware of what was available in this civilization. Somehow we have not taken that step. Okay, it is a shame. So now you see, we have, see, science is essentially a systematic study of something. So that is what we call as Shastra. We have Chandas Shastra, Sangeeta Shastra, Natya Shastra, all that are Shastras, Artha Shastra. See, we had a huge discussion on that. See, ये तो हमारे राधा कृष्ण ने थोड़ा अर्थशास्त्र को पढ़ के उसको बाहर लाना चाह रहे हैं, बट अर्थशास्त्र को पढ़ के बाहर लाने में उनका जीवन समाप्त हो जाएगा. No, it has so much of information on a variety of things. We just take one or two sutras, one or two chapters, and then we try to highlight. उससे हमारा जीवन बन जाता है. See, so that is what we do, right? So all that I am saying is, these are all oceans. See, that minds have, so these are all minds. Some brilliant minds have captured the essence of various disciplines and they have put in some form of codified form for us. See, that integration can happen only if we read many Shastras. That is again a problem. In fact, we have this beautiful verse in Charaka Samhita. Charaka Samhita. He says, Charaka or Sushrut? Charaka only. See, he says, Ekam Shastra Madhiyanaha Navidyat Shastra Nishchayam Tasmad Bahushrutaha Shastram Vijaniyat Chikitsakaha. See, Ekam Shastra Madhiyanaha. By studying only one particular discipline, Navidyat Shastra Nishchayam. He will not understand the essence of what the Shastra says. Tasmat, therefore, what should you do? Bahushrutaha. See, Bahushrutaha means you have to hear. See, Bahu Shravanam means, so Bahunam Shastranam Shravanam. There are some fellows who will repeatedly listen. So suppose our brahmachari wants to teach me music. I can listen and I can just keep trying to say, but even if he teaches me 100 times, I will not be able to sing like him. So Bahushravanam, see, means, so those who are intelligent and who can grasp so many things, so that has to be done anyway. Vijaniya chikitsakaha. See, and further he says, Shastram Gurumukhodgirnam Adaya Upasya cha Asakrit. This is very important. See, Shastram Gurumukhodgirnam. See, those who know the Shastra well, you have to learn from them. Gurumukha Udgirnam. Adaya. First step is Adaya. Nowadays, this Adanam itself doesn't happen. Adanam means Grahanam. So the teacher keeps saying something, that fellow is doing something. See, in my class, if people are not attentive, then I will just ask them to get out. Okay? So recently I dismissed one fellow because second time he was just playing with mobile. I said, you get out, I am just throwing you out of the course. See, इधर आते हैं, क्यों आके बैठते हैं? आपको सुनना है, जानना है, नहीं तो इधर आने की जरूरत ही नहीं. So Adaya, you have to first of all learn. We are not teaching to desks. Adaya, you have to listen carefully and then only you will get. Upasya cha. Upasya means repeatedly thinking. See, Grahanam is first thing. Then you have to repeatedly think. Then only it will get digested. Okay, you will be able to assimilate it. And he says, Asakrit Upasya. You have to repeatedly contemplate on something. So then only the whole picture will come to your mind. Adaya Upasya cha Asakrit. Now many of our engineering students, Adanam eva nasti. First Shravanam eva nasti, then Adanam, then Grahanam, then Upasanam. So all these things have to be done. You have to understand this. Asakrit, Adaya Upasya cha Asakrit. Yah karma kurute vaidyaha. See, the one who does chikitsa after that, he should be considered as a doctor. If not, anyetu taskaraha. Taskara means thieves. The other fellows are only thieves, not doctors. Okay, that is how it puts it. Anyway, so these are all, see, as a, why I said this was, it is very important for us to deliver something, irrespective of the profession chosen, to do it for our own satisfaction, for the benefit of the community, to clearly understand. And this requires enormous effort on our part. That is why when I said Vidya Bhavati Panchami, the respect is because of that. They are doing some upasana, they are doing some tapasya. Therefore, we respect that knowledge. Okay, that is why it is given higher status. Okay, now you have various shastra, Artha Shastra, Nyaya Shastra, Natya Shastra, Sangeeta Shastra, Alankara Shastra, Chikitsa Shastra, Bhautika Shastra, Rasayana, Jiva, Ganita, Jyotisha, Chilpa, Kama. See, Kama Shastra we have. So we have Niti Shastra, we have Adhyatma Shastra, all that we have. So that is what Narada was also listing. Okay, I'll just, for fun, I wanted to tell you. See, this Kama Shastra I told, no? This I was fascinated. See, this I was telling you, this Mallinatha commentary in the morning. I was just looking at Meghadutta, some verse I was just looking at Mallinatha's commentary. There he has quoted some interesting verse. I don't know the source. He has not given the reference. It is not traceable perhaps, I don't know. So this is the verse basically, Yatasman mam kushalinam abhijnanadanat viditva makaulinat, isko chhod denge. So Mallinatha has come up with this verse here. See, Alokana bhilashau ragasnehau tataf prema rati shringaru yoge yogata vipralambhasya. He quotes Alokana abhilashau ragasnehau tataf prema. This is a sequence in which the see, the relationship builds. So you first come at the sight of the person, Alokanam. Then you develop a certain liking for him or her, whatever. Okay. So then there is a passion, then there is an affection, then love, devotion. So he just describes all of them. See, preksha, didriksha, what all of them mean, there are other couple of verses. See, preksha, didriksha, ramyeshu. So I am very happy to see you, the first fellow say. Then he will say, I am thinking of you all the time. Then he will say, I want to be with you. Okay, see, let us meet, dating, baiting, whatever. So then you have, see, then this fellow will say later, say, I cannot be without you. Okay, ये कुछ दिन के लिए रहेगा. Then out को निकालना पड़ेगा. If you remove that out, see, that is what will happen. See, out को out करना. In fact, there is a nice saying in Tamil. There. So in Tamil they say, Moham 3 masam, aase 6 masam. So you will have moha for 3 months and liking for 6 after that gone. Anyway, so then Rati, I am always with you, okay. So I am one with you, etc. Okay. Anyway, so this I wanted to tell you that even if you want to know about Kama Shastra, there is enough literature, okay, to study and analyze here. Anyway, so this verse I will leave this now. Now this that verse is a very powerful verse, I must tell you. So that that has to be understood in the right spirit. So this literature, they bring in several dharma shastras very beautifully. So it has to be presented appropriately, then we will be able to see the kavyasya prayojanam. See, he says. So kavya prayojanam, uchita mammata. See, kavyam yashase arthakrite vyavaharavide shivetara kshataye sadyaf paranirvrtaye kanta sammitataya upadesha yuje. What is the purpose of kavya has been brilliantly brought out by a poet called Mammata. See, yashase arthakrite shivetara kshataye is the interesting thing. Shiva means mangalam. See, in fact, today somebody was asking, so in the lunch time, some lady was discussing with me. So how do I overcome this anxiety? How do I overcome this, that, etc., etc. This is a natural process that has to happen. It is not something which can be given, advocated like a pill, which will immediately cure you from the headache. So there is a certain internal transformation that has to take place, and this internal transformation happens through a certain process. And once this happens, you will be entitled with a certain intellect which will take the right decision in the right moment. And that is what we call as Devata Prasada. So Devata Prasada does not mean this Shiva comes in front of me, Amba comes in front of me, or Vishnu comes in front of me, Vinayaka comes in front of me and guides me like a police for a politician. Aisa nahi hota hai. So this is not that. Devata Prasada is Mati Vaimalyam. Mati Vaimalyam, once it happens, that is why I said, so some of these people who have this absolute devotion towards Ishvara and faith, that faith works wonders and they take a certain decision which is going to be benefiting. See, my mother itself I have seen, my great grandmother I have seen. They have certain faith and that faith works wonders. Okay? So that is something which is nicely integrated in our Chikitsa Shastra. If you understand this Charaka Samhita and so on, they talk about not only the physical, this chemical reaction can be triggered by certain other means. This chemical reaction will fail to be triggered if the right thought is not there. So that is what we need to understand. So these are all things which are very important. So he poses various interesting questions. I think I will skip this. So this is one thing which is unique to Indian knowledge system. I will tell you. This theory of karma, in fact we have this question. See. So in Brihadaranyaka, so we have this karma haiva tadu chaturatha yat prashashag sutuh karma haiva tat prashashag satuh punyo vai punyena karmana bhavati papah papena. See, third adhyaya, tatoha, so it just goes. So, there is a profound philosophy in presenting this karma theory, which is very unique. So, if we ask this question, you try to analyze even from the modern viewpoint, what is your physical composition? If you just go break, if you go to the minor particles, then it will not be very different from what the elephant has, what the buffalo has, or any other creature has at some point if you break. But when they are assembled together in a particular form, they have different functions. Why did this particular thing happen only for this creature? And do you choose actually to choose this particular form? And these are things which are being questioned. And suppose you see a certain twins, identical twins, do their characters match as such? Absolutely no. How will you explain? Somebody is a genius, other fellow is a complete dullard. Somebody has this music talent at the age of 4 years, other fellows work for 24 years but they do not get. How? We can't just say everything is one and the same. So, there are certain things which are completely unexplainable by us, and these things have been analyzed. Okay. So, and see, so this is a certain connection which has got established. So, what is this jiva? It is essentially the consciousness connected with the sharira. That is all the birth is. So, what is birth? Connection of a certain conscious entity with this physical sharira. What is death? This disconnect that happens at some point of time. Okay, this physical entity gets separated, that is death. And when will this connection happen? How will it work out and turn out? So, there we bring in the theory of karma. So, when does it happen, where does it happen, how does it happen, etc., etc. What connections get established at some point of time? These are completely undreamt. Various things keep happening in our life. So, that is where we always believe that you think of good, you will reap good. Okay. So, there is no need to keep worrying about things. So, when there are beautiful things for us to enjoy and keep studying all through the life, why keep pondering over what has happened and keep lamenting over it? Or why keep worrying about what is going to happen tomorrow? Just leave it to Ishvara, keep doing things. So, this is something which is a very interesting thing. See, pariksha lokan, just say yesterday, see, pariksha lokan karmachitan brahmano nirvedamayat nastya kritah kritena tadvijnanartham sa gurumeva bhigachet samitpani shrotriyam brahmanishtham. He says how you have to do, what you have to do, after doing what you have to do. So, all these things have been brilliantly brought out here. I will just skip this. See, if you just see the variety also, Janma, see, you see, this is nicely presented in Nyaya Vartika. Do you know Nyaya Vartika? So, there is a Nyaya, we have Nyaya Sutra by Gautama, then Nyaya Bhashya by Vatsyayana. Then on that we have Udyotakara. Okay, that is what is called Nyaya Vartika. So, Udyotakara nicely brings in, see, Gati, Sugati, Durgati, Jati, Manushya, and so on and so forth, Lingam. So, there are various kinds of variations, then Brahmana, Itara, Ucha, Nicha, Sakala, Nishkala, Mrudu, Patu. Mrudu, Patu means, Patu means bright, Mrudu means somewhat dull. See, we have a nice phrase in Sanskrit, Mrudu Buddhi. So, if you say Mrudu Buddhi, he will not be that much hurt. But if you say Manda Buddhi, he will be, but both mean one and the same. You can say he is a class 4 servant and what. The other one is, you can say he is a sweeper. So, what do you want to use? You use a better term. Anyway, I am just saying. So, these are all things Mrudu, Patu, Buddhiman, Murkha, etc. See, Buddhiman means on his own he will understand. Murkha means even if you say he will not understand. Okay, he will neither have his own intellect nor will he be willing to listen to you. There are various kinds of problems are there. Okay. So, the other thing that I want to tell you is this Indian knowledge system clearly tells you how to lead this life happily. Okay. Most of us are distressed. If we just build our life on this foundation, then you will be really, really, really 1,000 times happier than what you are. So he says, see here it is said, see how do you visualize your own life? He says, you just treat it like this. Tishtan gehe griheshaha. Gehe means this body. See, you are able to see this body, you are able to see your mind, you are able to visualize your own sense organs. Therefore, you are someone who is different from all of them. That which you see has to be different from what you are. Okay? So, keeping this in mind, he says, Gehe, this physical body is something which is seen by us. Physical body keeps continuously changing, right? You were hardly 3.5 kgs at one point, then you become 35, then some people become 135 and they have to put a lot of effort to come down. So, this is what is happening, and you will not be able to stop a child from kicking the leg, and at some stage somebody has to pull your leg, but it will not happen. So, you see all this happening, but it is your own body, the body keeps changing, you are witnessing all this. Therefore, it presents that you are different from your body. Similarly, you are different from your mind, etc. You can argue. Now, given this, you should understand that being the witness of all this, you are different from this. So, now you take it little further. So, the stay in this body is just like the stay in a guest house. So, मैं अभी विवेक दालमिया जी के घर में ठहरता हूँ, उनके घर में क्या हो गया मुझे पता नहीं, क्या होगा उसके बारे में मेरा चिंता नहीं. So, एक दिन आता हूँ, ठहरता हूँ, खाता हूँ, जाता हूँ. Right? It is like this only. This body is like this. That is what you have to visualize. Tishtan gehe griheshaha atithiriva. Just like a guest. You are staying in this guest house. This is body is guest house. You are the guest of this. Okay? See, atithiriva nijam dhama gantum chikirshuhu dehastham dukha saukhyam na bhajati sahasa. See, then he says, once you develop this feeling, dehatstham dukha saukhyam, whether it is short, whether it is long, whether it is fair, whether it is dark, so you will not care for all this. Our mind will be dwelling on something else. Just because you keep thinking of this, you identify with this, and anything that keeps happening, you just keep bothering about this. Take your mind off this. Okay? Then what happens? You are not going to bother much. That is the point that it is. See, nowadays there is a big problem I see. So, kahin maine dekha, I am not joking, this is literally, I was, I think in Europe somewhere, I was just, there was some 2-hour gap between two flights. I was sitting somewhere. Two fellows came, okay, couple. They hugged with each other, then all that happened, and then, so that girl, she wanted to post some photos. So, this fellow is taking photo. She puts hair like this, bends head like this, then bends head the other way. This was happening and she moves a little bit and then bends. So, this happened for almost half an hour, they would have taken 150 photographs. क्या फायदा है? दिमाग खराब हो गया. Nowadays I see all the people. So, he is just saying this is just a guest house, you just stay in the guest house and then move out of the guest house. See, if this is deeply integrated with your line of thinking, then you reap benefit. That is all I wanted to convey. By trying to attach too much to the external appearances, this and this external appearance is also okay. But photo में क्या है? कि कितना दिन ऐसा दिखेगा? हर दिन तो ऐसा शरीरियत है. The glow is decreasing day by day. So, this is what we need to understand. So, this is what he is beautifully saying. Ayat rayasyatidam jalada patalavatu yatriyasyatyavashyam dehadyam sarvamevam pravidita vishayaha yasya tishthatyayatnaha. So, you will be able to easily swim through this life. Okay? So, your purpose of this life should be just to ensure that we are of some benefit for others. That should be kept as the purpose of life. If you keep that and then move you will just forget about various other things. If you do some good thing, you will really feel that you have contributed. That kind of a feeling is what is to be generated. Instead of spending too much on ourselves, if you are able to build a certain attitude by which this can be used for a better purpose in our life. So money means, we just need to understand, these are all beautifully integrated into our literature. You have to see. So somewhere, this Kalidasa says, see, is it? See, he says, Apannarti prashamanaphala sampado hyutamana. See, sampada means wealth. Apannarti prashamanapalaha. The wealth of the noble is meant for relieving the pains of the people who are distressed. Apannarti prashamanapalaha sampadohi uttamana. So that should be the goal. Okay. Anyway, so these things, if they don't enter into the minds in the impressionable age, you cannot make it enter later. So therefore, it is important to make children learn these things at the right age. Okay. In fact, Rahim also says, Sayi itna dijiye jame kutumba samay. मैं भी भूखा न रहूं साधु न भूखा जाए. This is how we have to keep as principle. इतना कमाना है, then Rajat Gupta will happen. See, so even if I have 100 billion, so I want to become a billion, a trillion, ऐसा जाते रहेगा, जीवन खत्म हो जाता है. Anyway, so that is something which we need to understand. Then see, this is see Veda, the last part I am coming. See, this satyena andratam danena adanam shraddhaya ashraddham akrodhena krodham. This is all. Nothing more to be learnt in life. This is in Samaveda. See, satyena andratam danena adanam shraddhaya ashraddham akrodhena krodham. See, this is there in Samaveda. This is called, see, this Samagana, see, so it is very beautifully sung. And in fact, this is something which has been put into practice. See, I will tell you. So you are talking about Artha Shastra, right? So this is how the Raghuvamsha kings were living. Tyagaya sambhritarthanam satyaya mitabhashinam yashase vijigishunam prajayi grihamedhinam. See, Tyagaya sambhritarthanam. Why do you want to acquire? Tyagaya. Tyage naike amritatvama nashuhu. There is a great joy, immense joy, I must tell you, in sharing. But you have to give them opportunity to experience that joy. Then only it is possible. ये भी अभी ये दूसरा प्रॉब्लम है, मैं देखा हूँ आजकल. See, in my childhood, anything that my mother makes or my grandmother makes, they will immediately ask us to go and deliver to next houses. तो उनको दे दो, उनको आके बुलाओ, वो दे दो. Okay? Nowadays, we are training children. If anybody gives, don't accept. क्या खराब हो गया, दिमाग खराब हो गया. Okay, so this has to be built. Okay, this is a very very important thing that we have completely forgotten. See, life में ज़्यादा कुछ नहीं है. See, okay, so satyaya mitabhashinam, this is also very important. Okay, they speak less only to see that Satya is maintained. Yashase vijigishunam prajaye grihamedhinam. This also has to be understood. Why do you enter into family? In order to see that the progeny, dharma praja sampatyartham. See, dharma praja sampatyartham. That is the purpose of life. आजकल ये ऐसा हो गया, ये क्या, marriage itself takes place at later, I mean 20 years. 20 years later, then what happens? See, earlier it was some 14, 15, now it is 34, 35. Okay, तब भी नहीं होता है. तो उसके बाद भी वो प्रजायी नहीं है, वो some other purpose. So this prajayi grihamedhinam is a very very important principle in the marriage institution. So I will just go to my last slide. Okay, another thing that I want to tell you was, see, आजकल we use all these tools. This tool को छोड़ दिए. See, A for Apple, B for Bluetooth, C for chat, D for download, E for email, F for Facebook, G for Google. Okay. So V for Vista and W for Wi-Fi, Y for Y for YouTube. से ये सब यूज़ करते हैं, इसको छोड़ दिए. Okay. This is a problem. So ये यहाँ है. So this is, see, we cannot afford to do this. Earlier what was happening is everything was like this. They will simply listen, उसको दिमाग में ले लेंगे. Even in 1870s, this is how the teaching was happening. Okay. So less effort in not noting down, more effort in retaining. So this is something which we cannot afford to lose. So nothing has changed, our trend has changed. So that is something which I wanted to convey. And I will go to the last slide. So this again, see, ours is the true religion because it teaches that God alone is true. So this is something, again Vivekananda, I was very impressed with this, that this world is false and fleeting. This has to be there. Okay. That all your gold is but as dust, that all your power is finite, and all that life itself is oftentimes an evil. Therefore, it is that ours is the true religion. Ours is the true religion because above all it teaches renunciation and stands up with the wisdom of the ages. See, this is where we need to understand. The wisdom of the ages, so that is there, this is the oldest civilization. To tell and declare to the nations who are mere children of yesterday. See, आप लोग अभी कल आए थे. See, the way he puts it, okay. So, hoary antiquity of wisdom discovered by our ancestors here in India to tell them in plain words. Children, you are slaves of the senses. There is only finiteness in the senses. There is only ruination in the senses. The 3 short days of luxury here bring only ruin at last. Give it all up. Renounce, see, the love of the senses and of the world. That is the way of religion. So this is something which I don't think anybody teaches in the world. This is the lesson that has to be taught. And so we have, unfortunately, the last slide. See, even Sir C.V. Raman, he says, we have, I think, see, Sir C.V. Raman pata hai na? So he worked in Calcutta and he got this Nobel Prize. So we have, I think, developed an inferiority complex. I think what is needed in India today is the destruction of this defeatist spirit. We need a spirit of victory. How will it happen? Unless you teach them. So a spirit that will carry us to our rightful place under the sun, a spirit which will recognize that we as inheritors of the proud civilization are entitled to our rightful place on the planet. If this indomitable spirit were to rise, nothing can hold us back from achieving our rightful destiny. Thank you. Namaste.